Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages and immaturities. My name is Eoghan Griffin. I am a zoologist. This is Pavlovs Pet Peeves. Now, who is this Pavlov? What are his pets? And how was he peeved? Well, Ivan Pavlov was a crazy Russian scientist that lived 100 years ago. He's famed for earning the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1904. Now, he's not only a brilliantly intelligent man, but he also has a beautifully brilliant beard. And he discovered this thing called classic conditioning. Now, classic conditioning can be defined as conditioning in which the conditioned stimulus is preceded by and affected with the unconditional stimulus until the conditioned stimulus is sufficient to elicit the desired response. However, this is a bit complicated, so we're going to simplify it and introduce Pavlov's pets. Now, Pavlov's dogs, like dogs and humans, we drool unconditionally. And Pavlov had been using his canine companions to test how much we drool. So what he did was, what he found out was that his pets would start to drool before he even entered the room. And what he hypothesized was that the dogs were associating his footsteps with the imminent food and would start to drool preemptively. Now, this obviously threw an error into the works. So he decided to test it. And what he did was he first proved that if you give the dogs food, they will start to drool. And then he said, if you give the dogs something that's unrelated to food, like a bell, they won't drool. So that was stage one. In stage two, he then started to feed them. But every time he fed them, he would ring a bell preemptively. And he did this a number of times until the dogs, then he tested the bell alone. And when he tested the bell alone, he showed that the dogs would drool just to the sound of the bell. And this is associated with all animals. You see, he can show that dogs can learn to drool to anything. Now, this is Pavlov's legacy, and he wasn't around. He died in 1936, so he wasn't around for everything you see in front of me. He wasn't around for penicillin, for the dawn of the slinky, for atomic bombs or the Polaroid camera. He didn't know who Harvey Milk was or who Martin Luther King was. He didn't know who, talking cars and David Hasselhoff, Lady Gaga, Michael Jackson, or even Elvis Presley. He didn't know who Harvey Milk was. He didn't know who Watson and Quick were. He didn't know that there was a such thing as Dolly the sheep. But yet his legacy is forgotten, and the reason it's forgotten and misused, and this is why he's so peeved, is that people like madmen, like Donald Draper, are misusing his concept to manipulate us and to make us view things in a certain light. So what they're doing is, and if you don't believe me, that's fine, but look at 007, look at modern movie franchises, right? You can see products peppered around them. Now, modern, 007, the Martini, shaken not stirred, license to kill. All men want to be him, all women want to be with him. If you pepper their music, their movies with products that you might like, then the positive feelings you have towards that movie you'll start feeling towards those products. And it's not just movies. You see, in this case, James Bond is the meat. The positive feelings, that's the drool, and the products, that's the bell. It's not just the same with movies, it's also with addictions. In addictions, tobacco is the meat. The happy chemicals that are released in your brain when you smoke, that is the drool. And the paraphernalia that go with the cigarettes, that is the meat. Now, any of you feel hungry towards these yellow arches? Well, bad news, friend, because huge conglomerates have been using Pavlov's pet peeves to manipulate you into buying their products for the last couple of decades. And this is especially difficult for our children because it can lead to obesity. Now, this is very strange, and I know you're going to love this. 50 years ago, a twitch was a twitch. But now when we get a twitch in our thigh, we think, hey, I've got a text message. Because you now associate the twitch in your thigh with a vibrating alert. In this case, the phone is the food. The twitch, that's the drool. Anyway. But I digress, and I need to talk to you about extinction. This extinction isn't the kind of extinction where dinosaurs are destroyed, the planet is in ruins, and a meteor hit the Earth. This is a behavioral extinction. And it pretty much happens that if you stop associating the bell with the food, then eventually that association will cease. So if you stop ringing the bell, if you don't feed the dog when you ring the bell, then the dog will stop drooling. Now, a contemporary of Ivan Pavlov's, a guy called John Watson, once said, if you give me 12 infants and you let me raise them in my specified world, I can guarantee to take any one of these children and raise them to be anything I want, be it doctor, lawyer, merchant sailor, even beggar, man and thief. And it doesn't matter about their vocations, their talents, their predispositions, or their ancestors' race. So when you go out of the tent today, I want you to ask yourself the question, for whose bell am I salivating for? Am I a victim of Pavlov's pet peeves? Thank you very much.